out to create a school with no ceilings, no limitations on what students could pursue or achieve, and no walls, no boundaries between the content areas, the classroom, and the world beyond. At the Logan School, we allow children to be who they are and where they are, and to follow their interests and to create. The job of the teacher is to support each child in taking the next step, whatever that is, and however big or small. Many times, people look at our school and ask, what about when these kids get into the real world? Yet this school is so much more like the real world than most. In traditional schools, everything is broken into specific subjects. Reading, writing, math, and the arts are all segregated. But the world itself is integrated, and living and working in it involves all kinds of skills. When we plant a garden, for example, we need to know the measurements, botany, life cycles, soil chemistry, weather, and all kinds of stuff mixed together. So that is how we learn here at Logan, starting in the real world and using all our skills and senses to understand. We also mirror the real world as a learning community where students and teachers alike practice responsibility, independence, collaboration, negotiating, and advocating for their interests and needs. Students have the freedom to make choices, evaluate options, foresee the impact, and experience consequences. Further training for real life. The Logan School for Creative Learning is a special place, a place where everything depends. Not only do we depend on one another as learners and friends, but how to solve problems and make decisions depends on the constellations of circumstances. We are willing to be flexible and reflective to make the best decision we can in the moment for that individual circumstance, rather than simply to implement a policy or a curriculum. There is no easy answer to what we do if a student wants to study math beyond her teacher's understanding, or if a child cannot read by the age of 8. There is no pat answer for how we respond if a student hits a classmate or can't stop reading to go to recess. Our response depends upon who the individual is, what he or she knows, and what he or she needs. Then, based on our mission and the values, we develop an appropriate plan of action. Most of the jobs that today's children will someday hold do not exist. The vastness of human knowledge is growing at an exponential rate. How can their teachers know what these students will need to know, or even whether what we know now today will still be true in 3 or 4 or 5 decades? Logan knows this. Young people need grit, need to be adaptable, need to know how to figure things out for themselves as the world around them changes. To this end, the school lets students explore hip-hop and lollipops, revolutions and reincarnation. To learn at Logan is to engage as a thinker among thinkers, to follow one's heart, to cultivate respect and responsibility, to understand the world and one's place in it. Logan learners grow up believing that they are valued as individuals, that their ideas are worth pursuing, and their questions worth investigating. And then they use what they learn in the service of the greater good. For in the end, there is no absolute way to educate all children. To know what is best at any moment, we must constantly assess the situation. We need to be thinking about each child at each stage of learning. We need to ask questions. What does this child already know? What skills does this child need to develop next? What questions does this child have? What is happening in this child's life? It is all connected. The child, the teacher, and the environment. The decisions that a teacher makes every day are directed and dictated by what each child needs. What we do depends on what we know will support our students' growth, for that is the art of education.